There we go. So you can talk to them at any issues that come up. Yeah.
Well, thank you very much.
Thank you for being patient. You're our last one.
Of being able to say a few words about the hopes, my hopes, because I speak for nobody else but myself, about my hopes for the village of the future. And I'm looking 20 years ahead. Now the good news is it's highly unlikely that I'll be around then. But if I am, I'll certainly be on the short list for Britain's oldest man. But there, though I'm an oldie, I'm a youngster in this village. 8 years ago, just over, my wife and I first stepped our foot in this village. We liked what we saw, and by July 2010, we were residents here, and we've had no regrets ever since. But I'm anxious that the village should retain its character against a background that it's going to expand. We may not wish it to, I know many of you don't, but the political pressures and the demands of housing in the southeast are such that it's going to take place, and in 20 years' time we will certainly, those here, will be living in a village that's somewhat bigger. It's good that in looking forward to that we have a vision and plan, that we have professional experts guiding the village. I hope, knowing where they come from, that they haven't brought too many ideas from sandbanks with them in their briefcases. But it's great. We're looking forward. And I believe that the village has got to be bold. It's got to be ambitious, retaining what's good. We've got to be positive to create a village that's homogeneous, one that those that live in it will be proud. They will respect the village, and the village will be respected by those outside. So, in moving forward from there, I think we need to look that 20 years' time, the world that we live in is going to be very, very different. And in planning and what we do, we have to take account of that. We're going to be a more aging population. 75 could well be the new 65. Family units are likely to be smaller at both ends of the scale. There will be single people. We're more likely to treasure experiences than possessions. And we are going to need, we see more home working. There's going to be need for more leisure. There will be more leisure. I suggest there will also be fewer cars round, that we won't necessarily own our own. And if I may say in that connection, that those cars, most of them, if not all, will be electric. They may not even have drivers. And that would solve a lot of the problems that we've heard about in Hallam, because they're automatically controlled.
I think you're on exactly. I think there's a lot to be said.
I think that I'm looking ahead, and I've suggested that those that are responsible for decision making create a profile of what we would like to achieve in the years to come. And I believe that we're given that 200 new homes in the village, and I don't say houses, I say homes, as not out of place, as unreasonable and containable. And I've suggested a matrix. It's no good putting it up, I'm sorry, but that is something which might be looked at, and it's something worth constructing. The ideas that I put about the number and size of houses, the number and ages of people that would be resident in them. They're my suggestions, but they're not sacrosanct in any way. It's for the decision makers to get their teeth into, to just well, it is meant to put it up. Sorry about my writing. Sorry that I'm not able enough to make a PowerPoint presentation. But I think that it's very important in thinking ahead that we avoid the pitfall that many generals are accused of falling into, of fighting the last war and not the next. And from some of what I've seen this evening, this afternoon rather, I should say, that I suggest that there could well be yesterday's solutions for tomorrow's problems. And that's something that the planners need to bear in mind. I've made one positive suggestion. What I've described as an outward-facing square, which probably terraces, they face direct onto the ring road of the square with a communal area in between. There would be no front gardens or anything like that. Solve some of the drainage runoff problems. And I think that they need, I say squares, they needn't be square. We're not thinking of edifices of constructions such as you find in Belgravia or in Brighton. They can be rectangular, they can be elliptical, and there's scope for thought. They would, no need for them, in my view, to be uniform. If you've got a square, that there will be, it needn't be, all the properties needn't be joined, but, and they needn't all be at the same elevation. I think I heard you mention Poundbury earlier.
Yeah, I did. Yeah.
And there are lessons which I think can be learned from Poundbury for us for the future. I believe that a terrace formation configuration can give compactness, high density. Also, most importantly, it can give lower cost. So, moving on from there very quickly indeed, against that background of changes in demography and changes in the needs and expectations of people 20 years ahead, that there are many other potentials which I'm sure that have been touched on. Need for sheltered accommodation. There'll be more old people around who want to live on their own, who want to live in the village, as they have for much of their lives. But they don't want to live in 3, 4, 5-bedroom houses. So they've got to be incorporated. That there's need for business. We don't want people rushing all around the country, so that there needs to be more business in and on the spot. That there will be a demand for more leisure, for more sports. We've heard much about that. I won't go any further on it. I would just suggest that if you are being bold and you're being ambitious, think about putting a swimming pool in. That's what you'll find every time you go to a village in France, isn't it? Yeah. To be even more facetious, how about a zip wire from the top of Great Wood down to Old Blythe? But there are these, as I say, I think we've got to be bold, that there's a lot of change which has to take place to infrastructure, to services, traffic management, etc. No need, you've dealt with a lot of that already. What is tricky, and I don't know the answer to, is cost. But one just thought that if to try and raise money locally so that we own what we've got here, and something like a village bond is thought up and is viable, then I'll sign on the dotted line for that. Yes, we need to think about the environment and the ecosystems. There are prerequisite that we're going to build on green fields, whether we like it or not. I don't think green fields are particularly sacrosanct. They are not of the greatest quality around here, dare I say, but woodlands are sacrosanct. and you do damage them at your risk. So, be ambitious, be bold, aim for evolution over the 20 years, for a village that's bigger and better, that's physically pleasing and environmentally friendly. And above all, that those living in East Hoathly in 2018, beg your pardon, 2038, can say they got it right in 2018. Thank you.
Well, I think you'd all agree it was worth hanging on to hear. Inspirational, forward-thinking, ambitious, bold, realistic as well, all the things we want to hear. So we have run over by 15 minutes, but I think it was definitely worth it. It's been an incredibly packed morning, and I'm sure you're all desperate to stretch your legs and get something to eat.